Yo, what's good, family? How y'all doing? This is Mario Matthews, owner and operator of Minutes Till Dawn Productions, and the author of the new book, Dream No More, Rise of a Lion. Dream No More, Rise of a Lion is a coming-of-age tale sci-fi fantasy novel featuring a young black boy named Lyon who is torn from his family due to a civil war. Found injured and alone, he is taken in by a host family who nurses him back to health. Well, once he's nursed back to health, they come to find out of his odd continental misplacement, and his family is also captured by an evil sorceress. So Lyon, along with the host family, is on a quest to retrace their steps back to where they found him in order to unravel the mystery surrounding his unique circumstances. Join Lyon, Dior, and Lisa in their journey to Dream No More, Rise of a Lion. You can pick this up right now on Amazon and Lulu.com. Amazon, you can catch the paperback and the ebook. On Lulu.com, you can get this hardback version. Dream No More, Rise of a Lion. Thank y'all. I appreciate all of the love, help, and support. There we go. All right, so let's get to this report. Because as a community, especially my ADOS American descendant of slaves, you know what I'm saying, and all of our allies, we need to have a strategy meeting, okay? We need to strategize about ways of handling the political process when it comes to Democratic turncoats and their constituents who would do anything and everything necessary to make sure that they push our issues into oblivion. Okay? They've been stalling for 50 years now, not addressing many of the issues that are specific to the descendants of American slavery, the American descendants of slaves, okay? And it's about time that we did something about this. First things first, what I want y'all to do is I want you to take out a pen and paper. We're going to read this article from New York Times. I'm going to leave a description in the link once we're done. And I want you guys to take out a pen and paper and write down all the names that you hear in this article, okay? I want you to write them down, and I want you to memorize them. Why? Because these are a lot of the key players that are in place that are essentially selling the American descendants of slavery community up the river, okay? These are people who have already casted their lot with old white Dixiecrats who will rather us get along like little boys and girls instead of stand up for ourselves as a community. Let's get to this article, shall we? Headline: Joe Biden has support from older black voters. Is it enough? Let's go to the article. West Columbia, South Carolina. That's the first thing you need to know, okay? Right now in South Carolina, there is a stronghold for people that we are about to read in this article, okay? Let's continue. In most respects, it was a typical first Sunday at Brooklyn Baptist Church. The ministers delivered a Rasseris ceremony. Communion was distributed, and the choir closed the service with a gospel classic, Order My Steps, which admonishes Christians that Satan is busy and God is real. Here we go. But when the benediction was completed, the rush of congregants to the front pew signaled that this Sunday was unique The honored guest was former Vice President Joseph R. Biden Jr., and everyone wanted a photo. He was with quote, he was with President Obama, and you know what that means. He has a head start in my book, said Barbara Kane Seabrook, a 58-year-old member of Brooklyn Baptist. Quote, I think he has the community at heart. Number one. Nearly every Democrat in South Carolina agrees that Mr. Joe Biden is the early pace setter in the state's critically important primary. Buoyed by his long-standing relationship with elected officials here and support from black voters who make up almost 60% of the Democratic electorate. But black leaders and strategists are divided over whether the backing will endure over the next year. One camp believes his experience and appeal to older voters will make him an electorate juggernaut among the black community, while another sees him as a paper tiger whose appeal is generational and who may be overtly reliant on his ties to Mr. Obama. Black voters will represent a crucial segment of the primary electorate in many states, and Mr. Biden's ability to build lasting support among them will be essential to determining the strength of the candidacy. He has emerged as the pace setter in a crowd filled in large part because of sky-high polling numbers among black voters, support he never enjoyed during two previous presidential runs. Okay, so the New York Times makes it blatantly specific that the biggest majority of black voters that support Biden, and many other Democrats for that reason, or for that concern, that matter, is older black voters. Now, if you've been following Yvette, Cornell, and Antonio Moore, shouts out to them, you would know that a large portion of the wealth in the black community is actually corralled at a generational baby boomer level. What does that mean? That means that the majority of a large portion of our wealth in the black community is reliant upon the same people who's looking at this dude as our savior. They have, quote unquote, the heart of our community. Are you serious right now? The same dude that crafted the 94 crime bill, you know what? We're going to get into that later. Let's continue, because we got a lot of baby boomers that are just gone. They're gone. Okay? Let's continue. Obama is gone, and we're trying to figure out the future, or figure out how to get to the future, said Representative Jim Clyburn, the state's most powerful Democrat and the party's third-ranking member of the House. Mr. Clyburn, who worked closely with Mr. Biden during his years in the White House, said the former vice president has to lay out what his vision is, and it's yet to be seen whether it coincides with black people's dreams and aspirations. Now, for those who don't know, earlier in the year, we actually had an issue with Jim Clyburn having the nerve to come out of his mouth saying reparations is not important or not going to happen. And I'll leave a link in the description to what he said in concerns to that. But let's be perfectly clear about something. Jim Clyburn has already done the damage that he's done. All right? It's over. He's done. Okay? To come out and say that reparations is not an issue for the black community after spending 400 years in oppression and degradation, rolling back constitutional rights, gutting the Voting Rights Act, destroying affirmative action, including all these people in our issues in order to siphon resources out of our children's mouths. Let's continue. Those more bullish on his chances cite his slews of early endorsement in South Carolina. More than 20 announced Monday, including pastors, state legislators, and school board members. Now, these are all people, Democrats, that are black, supporting Joe Biden, the author of the 94 crime bill, who but put mass incarceration on steroids, and whose good buddy was old Strom Thurmond. Strom Thurmond being the racist, segregist, in the 1950s and 40s and 60s, who just so happened to impregnated his 16-year-old black maid. Have the nerve to call us the N-word out of his mouth during a speech. And this who Joe Biden liked to keep around in his company. Shouts out to Yvette Cornell because she did an amazing video on that. I'm going to leave a link to her video in the description. Let's continue. The association with Mr. Obama and the hiring of Kendall Corley, a prized Democratic organizer who specializes in field operations and turned down several other campaigns to serve as Mr. Biden's South Carolina state director. There you go. That's another one. Okay? Another one. In states like South Carolina, Mr. Biden's advantage with black voters not only helps him amass delegates ahead of the Democratic convention, but helps counter the widespread perception that he is a candidate running on a bygone appeal to white working class voters. Quote, he has a message that's not just for black people, but for everyone. All lives matter, anyone? Said Terry Davenport, 52, who attended Mr. Biden's rally in South Carolina over the weekend. He and several others attendees made a similar point. Mr. Biden is a person with the longest relationship with the black community, but can also win white votes. These are our grandparents right here, baby boomers right here. These are them. They would rather side with the Democrat who purposely puts himself in the company of racist white supremacist Republicans than to take a stand for our community. Come with an agenda item. Be uncompromising to the empowerment of black people that are the descendants of American slaves. Reparations for the descendants of American slaves. These are the people who had the ability to take advantage of the civil rights movement and then have the nerve to let these same white supremacists close the door in their sons, their daughters, their grandsons, their granddaughters, close the door in our faces. Treason. Treasonous. Let's continue. Mr. Biden can't assume he has the black vote, Mr. Davenport said. But we do know he's better than the guy in the White House. And there you go. Running on fear. You know, we like to say that white people are fear prone, which is why they do what they do. They do everything they can to keep control and keep, wealth, resources, equity to their control because of fear. Well, guess what? Black baby boomers are doing the exact same thing. They're selling out our community because they are afraid of their own shadows, afraid of their own progeny, afraid of their own history. They're running away. And they've been running for the past 50 years. Is this what Martin Luther King died for? Is this what Malcolm X died for? Medgar Evers? Okay? Dr. John Henrik Clarke certainly didn't like this type of mentality running rampant in our community. It's pathetic. Continuing. Others like Gerard Lodehart. And Gerard Lohart, that's what it is. A Democratic public, let me do that again. Others like Gerard Lodehart, a Democratic political strategist in the state, are skeptical of Mr. Biden's ability to maintain his lead with black voters. Mr. Lodehart cites the 2007 primary, when the Democratic frontrunner Hillary Clinton also enjoyed robust support among black Americans in several polls. Mr. Obama overtook her in a shift that swung the primary. Mr. Lodehart also questioned Biden's ability to get beyond the obvious campaign stops in the state and do the hard work needed to reach more rural black voters. Quote, Joe Biden is only going to campaign in the South Carolina Quote, Mr. Biden is only going to campaign in the South Carolina cities that have a Marriott, Mr. Lodehart says. And every person in South Carolina knows those 5 cities: Columbia, Charlottesville, Greenville, Myrtle Beach, Hilton Head. But where I'm from, the primary is really won. Your phone doesn't work. You heard that? I will repeat that. But where I'm from, where the primary is really won, your phone doesn't work. Now think about the conditions of the black community where there are no working phones. In America, the quote-unquote richest country in the world. That's how poor and poor and exploited our community is right now. Okay? Across the country, we are having problems living third world lives in a first world country. Let's continue. They like Barack Obama, and they know Joe Biden. He said, but do they like Joe Biden? He has to work for that vote. Mr. Biden has structured the early weeks of his campaign almost singularly around President Trump, casting himself as a racial unifier in the time of division. He stressed that over the weekend in South Carolina. It's not going to work. It might work with old black people, baby boomers, but it ain't going to work with us. We are not trying to be we are the world, okay? ADOS have our own issues that needs to be addressed specifically. Period. Mr. Biden, who served for years as a senator from Delaware before becoming vice president, has a legislative record littered with divisive or divisionist stances on issues relating to black people. He was an early opponent of busing programs aimed at school desegregation, and he played an integral role in the punitive crime reduction efforts of the late 80s and the early 90s, which helped to lead to an explosion in incarceration rates among black Americans. Mr. Biden has expressed some remorse for the crime legislation, and in his treatment of Anita Hill when she appeared before the Senate Judiciary Committee during Justice Clarence Thomas's confirmation hearings. But segregates and many voters have repeatedly downplayed both incidents and said they believed voters will judge him through his most recent actions in Mr. Obama's administration. Y'all still writing those names down, are you? Justice Clarence Thomas. Okay? Keep writing those names. Everybody makes mistakes, said Kenneth Webb, a 73-year-old black Southern Carolina resident who attended Biden's rally in Columbia. This is South Carolina. We've seen people like Strom Thurmond and Fitz Howling change their views. This isn't anything new. Change their views? A racist white supremacist who's probably a Klan member change their views? Are y'all serious right now? The same person who said that they would do anything in their power to keep an N-word away from their schools, away from their homes, away from all this stuff. There is no changing from that. You are casting your lot upholding the ideology of white supremacy. And that's what's wrong with baby boomers. You do not like to hold people feet to the fire. You do not like to excommunicate people and identify clear enemies to our community. Stand on principle. But you would rather let fear and temptation take over your principles, your spirit, and sell your children up the river. Continuing, through a spokesman, Mr. Biden declined a request for an interview for this article, but he told Charleston Post and Carrier this weekend, quote, I think the African American community nationwide knows who I am. And yes, we do, Mr. Biden. We know exactly who you are. The record is in. We know who you are. Quote, I'm not saying the others aren't qualified. I'm just saying I've been there, he said. Several of Mr. Biden's primary opponents have already tried to make outreach to the black community in the early months of their presidential campaign, a testament to the importance of the reliable Democratic voting bloc and the desire among 2020 candidates to recruit or recreate Mr. Obama's winning coalition from 2008 to 2012. However, each of those candidates have their own strategies. Senator Elizabeth Warren of Massachusetts earns rave reviews at the She the People Forum on women of color, but the crowd was largely activists and political operatives, not the rank and file Democrats where she has yet to break through. And that's the problem. Y'all think black people that are the descendants of American slaves are all continuing to click in with these quote unquote POC groups, women of color groups, diversity groups. No, we're done. We see y'all for who y'all are. Everybody has their own communities with their own problems, with their own agendas that they are trying to use us to push. Enough. We have our own agenda. We have our own community. We have our own lineage, our own identity, our own problems that need to be addressed in our community specifically. Continuing, the racist two black senators, Cory Booker of New Jersey and Kamala Harris of California, are still relatively new to the stage and must contend with the perception among even some black voters that several of the white candidates are better suited to defeat Mr. Trump. I don't care which one of y'all can defeat Mr. Trump or whatever. I don't care. What I care about is my community, my issues, and the problems that need to be addressed. Reparations 2020. Where do y'all stand on that? Because if y'all ain't talking reparations, if y'all ain't talking data, if y'all ain't talking numbers, if y'all ain't talking budgets, if y'all ain't talking money, we got a problem. Period. But most importantly, if we can trace you back to the crimes that was committed against our community, if you have a track record where you are identifying yourself as an enemy and not an ally, don't even try to talk to me. And that's the stance we should all take. Enough of the pity pat. There's a lot more to this article. However, I'm running low on time. So with that being said, we are going to stop it right here. And I don't know, I may just do another video where I read the rest of this article because they also talk about HBCUs and other people. But like I said, we're low on time and I am going to end it here. This is Mario Matthews, owner and operator of Minutes Till Dawn Productions. Thank you for all the love and support. Please like, please share, please subscribe. If you'd like to be a Patreon member, you can join us on Patreon. We got a unique videos, gifts, everything for people. I really appreciate all the support. Please support Dream No More, Rise of a Lion in stores right now. You can purchase this at Amazon and Lulu.com. Amazon, you have the paperback and ebook. Lulu.com, you have this hardback version. Thank y'all so much. I love and appreciate y'all, man. Y'all be cool. Everlast.